Alright, managed to pick up this tank from a good friend of mine. The integrity of the tank's pretty good, much better than the original one we had. He gave it to me dirt cheap, very cheap, because the breather has been broken off. Managed to salvage the breather off the old tank and it fits in there. And I also managed to save and reshape some of the original silver solder off the original tank. So what I'm going to attempt to do is solder this bit on here. Obviously I have to make that spotlessly clean before I do that. And then we'll clean the tank up and we'll check everything. I've got a spare sender, spare fuel line. I'll give it a good clean, a good wash, give it a couple of coats of paint, and I think it should be fine. It's worth a go anyway. The original tanks are always much better than the aftermarket ones. Bit of success there. So I managed to braze that back on. If you do pull apart old tanks and all that, make sure you do grab the silver solder and melt it down, put it in a little jug. It's not dangerous, it's got a little bit of lead in it, but lead's alright in small doses. And I've just made a little groove in my bench and I melt it down and I put it in there and makes it into the actual rod again, because it obviously matches perfectly with the original material and all the way around. I mean, it's factory basically, and it'll make your life a lot easier. Some of the modern silver solders don't have as much silver in it, whereas this one seems pretty good to me. So anyway, I might do a little bit more soldering around this, the filler tank, but I don't know yet. I think it's alright, but I might just maybe put some, I might do it, I don't know yet, I haven't decided. But it's not hard, give it a crack. I'm pretty sure this goes in plumb, not on the angle, not that it matters. So yeah, all in all, I think it was a pretty good job. And I just started cleaning the rocket cover. And doing a little bit of a before and after on it. It's a lot of work. Still not done. I don't know whether I'm gonna leave it like this. It looks okay. I mean, it's got scuff marks and things from where hoses and things were rubbing against it, which I probably won't get out. So I've got two options. I'll either clean it as much as I can and see how it looks, or I may even give it a light coat of that rocket cover spray you can buy, the aluminium looking spray. I'd like to leave it like that. I think I will. We'll see what happens. But again, mag wheel cleaner and some elbow grease, not a drama. Just had a really deep clean and a wash. Then I washed it some more. Then I washed it some more. Then I washed it some more. So the process that I used was the mag wheel cleaner, as we discussed, then a scrub with some Stilo, the one with the soap in it, just the, you know, the steel wool with the soap in it, just the normal everyday one. I rinsed it out in fairly hot water to make sure all the grease and grime was done. And then what I did was I washed it again, and what you'll notice is that's kind of what you get when you, after that process. So it's there, but it's not quite clean. And that's it finished. Now to get that finished there, all you do is, you get really fine steel wool. You can get that at your hardware store. I wet it, I cheat a bit, I wet it, put a little bit of that metal polish, which you can get anywhere these days. And the light's not very good. Then you just gently rub it. Rubbing it, really get in there. See how it's transforming a bit already? So rub it with the steel wool and then wait for it to dry a bit. Who knows, next episode I may even buy a tripod. Then just give it a clean. of a buff. Get rid of the stains. Look, that just gives you a rough idea. I'll keep going on that without the camera on. But you get the idea. You see already, that's fantastic. So I mean, if you've got a spare 4 or 5 hours to clean your rocker cover and you don't want to spray it, that's the way to do it. But if you do decide to spray it, just remember everyone's going to know it's sprayed. Everyone's going to know you cheated. So you're not on hourly rate. We're not doing it for the money. We're doing it for the love. So it's probably worth doing. It actually comes up quite good. All done. Pretty happy with the result. I actually didn't think it was going to turn out this good, to be honest. But not spray painted. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Just a bit of elbow grease. Got the plate up there. You'll see it probably when I put it on the motor in the next couple of weeks anyway. But yeah, just a little plate to go on. But I think that's as close as to what it looked like when it came out of the factory in England. I think that's what it would have looked like. I mean, there's imperfections in it. That's probably the draw hole from the casting. You know, all these are just casting. I can't do anything about that. I mean, these cars were a tool anyway. They weren't, you know, a showpiece in the time. So no one really cared about stuff like that. But there you go, can be done. This thing was absolutely caked with crap when we got it, and now we've just whittled away all the rubbish, and it looks pretty good. Taking out the clutch slave cylinder, sorry, out of the gearbox, and I pulled it apart, and I've had it soaking in the parts cleaner overnight. Most of the crud's already come off, just with a bit of a small brush up, we'll get that looking pretty good. I've also, I don't know if you can see it, the interior, the actual cylinder isn't too bad. Look, take my word for it, it's pretty good. So I pulled it all apart. I'll buy a rebuild kit, which basically I think is just the spring and that seal. That's all the rebuild kit is. Spring's still pretty good on that one. So we'll just change that seal, and I will stick the plunger in the electrolysis machine and clean that out. Get the rust off that and put it all back together, and we'll see how it turns out. But I know they're a cheap part. They're only like $30–40. But I still think keeping the original parts is a little bit like nicer than buying new ones, especially if they're repairable. Just a bit of an update on the clutch slave cylinder. Give it a clean, it come up quite well. The spring seems to work as intended. It's got a new seal in it. The bore's been honed out. Should be ready to go. I broke the original breather off. It was all rusted in. I managed to pull it out and put a new one in. That's just finger tight, so we'll be able to do, that should work all right when it all gets back together. I gave the bolts a bit of a polish. I'm not sure if I'll use them or get new ones, but that's miles away yet when we go to the gearbox rebuild. But it's another job that we can tick off. That's done. I can go straight back into the car, and hopefully it all works well. Yeah, these things, no matter how bad you think they are, they do come back. The aluminium underneath, sort of, the oxidization seems to protect it. I mean, if you saw the previous video, like under the here looked like it'd been eaten away, but it come up virtually like brand new. When you slip the new rubber on, there's no problem.
It's been a while since I've given too many updates. I have been working away, but most of it's been fairly boring. Just here finishing up the doors. So the previous owner of this car had done some very rough cuts of some keyholes. That's the better one. But regardless, we're going to cover them up and start from scratch. So I've just made a cutout here, and I've put a little lip on this one, and it's actually got a little bit of a radius on it as well, because this angle here is not quite straight. So that took a little bit of time, so hopefully that'll go in not too bad. There's also a couple of pinholes from the corrosion of that bottom rail, so they'll need some attention. And obviously then there's going to be the panel beading, a bit of hammering and shrinking and whatnot. So I'm really keen to get these doors done, because I'm kind of sick of looking at them, and I'm quite excited about starting on the rear tub, which should be a bit of fun. The other thing I've done here is these are the top rails of the doors, and there was a massive amount of sort of corrosion that was eaten away. So there were two sections, or one on each of the rails, just in there, which will be some photos of following when I shut up. But generally speaking, if it'll focus, even though I've put a heap of heat into it with the welding, I've managed to get them straight, and they look very good once they're on the door too. The door helps straighten them up a lot too. So hopefully once they're galvanised, that repair won't be seen. I've tried to be really careful in blending that in nicely, so hopefully once they're all gelled up, they'll look the business. Alright, we'll try some panel beading now. Now we've got some oil canning sections here, so I've obviously got some stretch metal that needs to be shrunk back. So I've bought this little handle set up here off eBay for about 30 bucks. Just plugs into your standard barbecue gas cylinder. First time I've used it, I'm not loving the fact that it hasn't got any flashback arresters, so I'm going to have to keep a very close eye on this thing. But yeah, hopefully we can get those waves to come back and pop back into place, and then I can hammer them straight again. Alright, so we've had one heat up and a bit of shrink. Obviously I'm just using a rag and cold water. So I've done a few shrinks and a couple of hammers. Using this thing is the business, but my god, it's literally, well, I'll take video of it in a second. It's brutal. Like, it's literally, 2 or 3 seconds on, and then you're starting to scorch the material. So if you do get one of these, be aware that it's brutal. Certainly better than all that crap with heat guns and stuff. That just doesn't work. If you don't have access to an oxy like I don't, this Dover here is a pretty good option. But it looks like we're getting it. So I've got this out in the natural light. It's still a tiny bit wavy. I may revisit it, but I mean, it's smooth, relatively smooth to the touch. The oil canning's gone, and look, just being an amateur myself, I think that is about as good as I'm going to get. We'll see what Adolfo thinks, but basically I'm sort of at a stage now where I'm thinking that if we're not satisfied, we can always order some new skins. But we'll see what the boss reckons.